6 months ago, I remember one day when I had spent over 4 hours on Instagram, was literally surrounded by DoorDash takeout, and had sunk to the absolute bottom of my couch. And I remember thinking, is this where you want to be, Zach? Is this what you want your life to be? No, I don't think it was. I was like sluggish, unmotivated, I felt weak, and I had no real vision or excitement for the future. Sounds grim, right? Well, it kind of was. But the night before, I actually watched the Rocky movie.
Come on, where's your guts?
But later that day, I somehow forced myself to go to the gym, and I remember that song, The Eye of the Tiger, came on, and I was thinking, you know, Rocky did pretty well. He had it kind of tough, but he did pretty well. What if I did kind of a Rocky thing? What if I tried to transform my life in a certain amount of months? And then began the 6-month transformation, which was the biggest transformation I've ever had in my entire life. But of course that burst of inspiration or whatever got me started, but the actual real transformation in the 6 months came from creating a plan that was associated with my vision, my life vision, and then actionably planning out every single week. And I did this because after that first burst of inspiration, which I've had before, right? I've had these bursts of inspiration. I get excited for about 3 days, and then I end up back in front of the TV, back watching dumb cartoons, back in a state of disarray. So I want to show you exactly how I transformed my life over these 6 months. What actually it was is, number 1, creating a vision. Number 2, outlining a 12-week plan. And number 3, I used the 85% rule. So planning can be boring and painful, I know, but I've found that actually setting up specific and actionable plans has made me accomplish way more than just putting out some things into the ether. For example, there's evidence here, right? People that plan usually accomplish 30% more than people who don't. And this is on academic studies of people studying and taking exams and things like this. But before we can actually figure out what specific actions we need to take, we need to figure out what direction we want our actions to go in. And this is where the vision comes in. And have you ever really thought about what you really want in life, what your big life vision was? And don't worry, I didn't too until 6 months ago when I actually asked myself a bunch of questions. Like, where do you want to live? What kind of family do you want to have? Do you want to get married or never get married? Do you want to start a business? Where is the direction that you want your life to go? And this is important, right? Because otherwise we're just taking actions that are sending us into 19 bajillion different directions. In one of my favorite books, The Alchemist, the main character, Santiago, is a shepherd in Spain, and he's herding all these sheep for his life, right? And he's not really satisfied with this life of herding sheep. He has this vision in the back of his head that he's gonna find some treasure in Egypt. But he never really thinks about actually doing it, right? Because that's a crazy thing. But he meets this king, and the king says to him, it's the possibility of having a dream come true that makes life interesting. And that inspires him to actually take action, sell all his sheep, and try and find this treasure. But when he makes this decision, he faces a ton of challenges. Someone steals all his money, he gets involved in tribal warfare, and he really comes close to giving up thanks to fear and doubt. But what he didn't realize is actually all of these things are guiding him towards his personal quest, his personal legend, or his vision. And the king advises him again. He says, when you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. I think one of the points here is that once he had his guiding vision, his direction in life, and he knew that he was going to follow this direction, everything kind of worked out to make that happen, right? Sure, he hit rough roadblocks and things like this, but once he knew what he was doing, he knew the direction he was going, he wasn't going to lose. This was what was going to happen. Say you have no idea what you want to do. That's fine. 20% of college students have no idea what they want to do. I thought I wanted to be a doctor. I quit. Now I'm trying to figure out what my life is, right? But I did this exercise and I knew the general direction that I was going to go in. So it's essentially coming up with your daily vision and weekly vision, and then working backwards from that to create your life vision. So this isn't set in stone, right? I've already changed my vision once in the past 2 years. It might change again a year or two from now. The important idea here is that you're finally creating a direction that you want your life to go in. And this doesn't necessarily mean these things are going to come true, right? But if you don't create this vision, if you don't create the direction that you want to be going in, they're definitely not going to come true, right? If you create them, they're much more likely to come true. So let's start with a daily vision, right? So if you could snap your fingers, the most amazing genie comes in the world to you and he says, you know, listen, tomorrow, I'm gonna grant you whatever you want in the world. You just have to describe exactly what your day is gonna be. There's no limits, right? This is a magical genie. He can do whatever he wants. Aladdin's genie sucks compared to this guy. So get out a page, a notebook, something or other, and write down the answers to these questions. What time do you wake up? Who do you wake up next to? Do you have any kids? Where are you? What's the size of the house or apartment or place that you live in? What's the first thing you do in the morning? What activities do you do in chronological order? What are you eating for lunch? Now these seem like very simple questions, right? And I'll probably display kind of what my answers to the questions were over here. But if you look and read my life vision, right? It sounds pretty cool. It sounds pretty awesome, right? And the important thing here is it really just came spontaneously out of me. And this isn't every single day of your life. This is just one example dream life day scenario. Okay, so that's the perfect day. Now expand that to the perfect week. This genie's working overtime here. So how many days of that week are you working? Are you working at all? What are you working on? Do you have weekly activities that you want to do every single week? I want to run, I want to lift weights, I want to do yoga, I want to do all these things because I know they make me feel good. And then you pretty much have a really good place to start for creating your vision. So looking at what this dream week is, right? This dream day and this dream week is, what overall has to be true for these things to come true, right? So say your dream day involves you playing on the beach with your 2 kids and your partner somewhere, right? Part of this vision, right, is finding a partner, right? And having kids. Now again, life happens, these things might not work out exactly in that way, but once you have identified this daily or weekly vision, then you can start moving in that direction. Maybe you go on a couple dates. Maybe if you already have a partner, you consider if this is the person you want to settle down with and have kids with or something like that, right? It's helpful to think about these things. So Seneca says, let all your efforts be directed to something. Let it keep that end in view. And I equate this to creating your vision and basically thinking about that vision as you do your actions and activities. If you dream of being a professional musician, right? But every single day, all you do is go on the computer, play video games, go on your phone, how are those actions getting you towards being a professional musician, right? If you have this vision of being a professional musician, well then maybe the actions should be different, right? And that's the whole point of the vision here, just aligning your actions with what you actually truly want. Okay, so you have your huge vision, which is really important. If you just did that, amazing job. Seriously, amazing job. It's really hard. And remember, it's not set in stone, but it's gonna help you move in the direction that you wanna move in, right? So make sure this vision is for you, right? And not other people. Make sure you're creating this vision from a highly personal place, from a place where it's like your deepest, darkest dreams, your deepest, darkest desires, right? That's where the vision should come from. But this big vision that you've created, right, is probably a little scary. You're like, okay, crap, I wanna make this much money. I want to live with these people. I want to do all these things. How do I actually take these steps? These seem a million miles away. Don't worry. I know exactly what you mean because I'm the same. My vision are a billion, jillion miles away, right? But what we can do is make sure that our immediate action are hopefully aligned with these goals. And we'll do that with something called the 12-week plan. So humans really can't realistically picture really big things. Imagine there's a jar of 100 marbles. You can probably picture that, right? Now imagine there's a jar of 1,000,000 marbles. That's really hard to picture. I can't picture that. And that's the same thing with life, right? We have about 4,000 weeks in our life, right? And that's just too many weeks. I can't picture that. I can barely picture the next 3 weeks, right? And that's exactly why we create the 12-week plan. And this is based off the book, The 12-Week Year, which was another hugely game-changing book for me. Okay, so you have these big visions, right? So now we need to break these into bite-sized chunks that we can apply to our 12-week action plan, right? So I'm sure you have personal and professional goals. What you want to do is pick one of those big personal goals and one of those big professional goals and say, these are the ones I'm going to work on for the next 12 weeks. But even one of those things, right, is probably a huge vision, a huge thing. And you're like, how the heck am I going to accomplish this in 12 weeks? Well, you're not. You're not, right? The important thing is that you're going to create a goal, a manageable goal that aligns with this big goal. And also we're going to focus on the actions we can take and not the outputs. So for example, right? So one of my really big goals is to live in another country for a certain amount of time of the year. That's like a second home for me, right? So I can't decide in the next 12 weeks the place I want to live occasionally for the rest of my life, right? But what I can do is say, okay, if this is one of my personal goals, what's something reasonable I could do in 12 weeks? Well, maybe I could visit 4 or 5 of these places, start to research what it's like to live in a different place. Those are very reasonable goals within that big goal. So what I'll then do for that 12-week year is I'll say, okay, week number 1, I want to research and identify 10 of my favorite countries and places I might potentially live. Week number 2, I'm going to research each one of those places and learn about the cost of living, kind of how happy, how safe all these kind of places are, and so on and so forth, right? But the idea is here that I'm creating action items for every week that aligns with my mini goal that's aligned with my big overall vision. Now, these goals might be too big or too small, and we'll get into that soon, but the important thing here is that you're breaking down this big vision into actionable goals for the next 12 weeks. This is the huge game-changing thing, right? This is the thing that changed my life, and it actually made my outputs, the things that happened to me as a result of these inputs, amazing, right? So you have your individual weekly goals, you separate that in a way to accomplish them every week. How do we actually track this and make sure that kind of we're accountable and if we've overshot our weekly goals or undershot our weekly goals? Well, the best way I've leveled this up is I actually sent 2 other friends the 12-week year, this book, and now every Monday at 6:30 p.m. we have a weekly accountability meeting, or a WAM. And in it, basically we go over the week before, what went well, what didn't go well, what we're planning to do the next week, and then we advise each other on kind of ways to improve this. And this was amazing. Number 1, it's helped me connect with kind of 2 of my close friends in a consistent way, which as I get older, I feel like I get busier and busier, so this is nice. And number 2, it's really nice to have an outside perspective on what you're doing. Now, the important thing here is the first time there should be a lot of leniency, right? The first time I did this, it was a complete mess. So what you do is basically you want to grade yourself every week. And this isn't to say, okay, I was slacking versus I was working really hard or working really well. This is to actually just see how reasonable you are being with your goals, right? So for example, on my goals, I thought I was working pretty hard, but I was only hitting 50%. I was actually only doing 50% of what I set out for myself to do. When I realized that it's not that I'm just not working hard enough, even though maybe that's the case sometimes, it's that I've set 2 crazy goals for my personal work ethic. And that's where grading yourself every week comes in. And for the first time you do it, I think it's completely okay because I completely messed it up in the first 6 weeks. For the first 6 weeks to change your weekly goals. It's okay to be like, okay, this week I accomplished pretty much nothing. And that's not necessarily because I didn't work hard. Maybe it's because I just set 2 crazy goals and that's what I did. I adjusted every week after each week. And we want to do this because we want to self-assess and maybe change our plan depending on if we make it too hard or too easy for ourselves, right? And again, life happens. This isn't necessarily that you were being lazy or you were working extra hard or anything like that. It's just saying, okay, maybe I set a too big a goal for Zach, or maybe I need to give Zach a bigger goal. Because there's this theory in learning called the 85% rule. And what the 85% rule says is that when you hit about 85% difficulty for an item or something like that, this is actually the peak point of learning. This is the peak point where actually you're going to retain information and improve and grow and strive. But when you hit like under 80%, so like 70%, 60% or something like that, it's actually so difficult that it's really not good for learning. And that's exactly what we're gonna do for these weeks. We're gonna say, okay, I have 10 mini check boxes, 10 mini action items across the week. If I hit around 85% or 8 of those boxes or 9 of those boxes out of 10, that's pretty good. If I hit only 5 of those boxes, or I'm consistently hitting all 10 of those boxes, maybe I need to make a change. If I'm hitting 100%, maybe I need to give myself a few more boxes, a few more mini action items. If I'm hitting 60%, maybe I need to reduce the boxes, right? And this is why the first 6 weeks, you can change things. And this is why when you make your next 12-week plan, you'll say, okay, Zach, I actually know what I can accomplish during these weeks. Let's hit a reasonable goal. Let's aim for that 80, 85%. But to motivate you a bit here, why this is so powerful, even if you only complete 50% of the goals you put forward, that's probably much more action items completed than you ever did before when you were just kind of bumbling through. And that's the whole point of this, right? It's to create some specific and actionable goals so you understand where you need to be that's aligned with your big dream life, your big dream vision. Because if you take action like this consistently every week, your life will change. I promise you, your life will change, if only through realizing, okay, this is when I do the good work, this is when I do the bad work, this is my reasonable output ratio. Remember, you only have to improve a little bit in each one of these 12-week plans. In 6 months, in a year, in 2-3 years, if you're consistently tracking yourself, improving, getting a better understanding of you and what you want in life, it's just like, it's a huge brain level up that I'm so annoyed I didn't start doing until I was like 29 years old. Okay, so you did that. Amazing job. If you got this far, amazing job. You created your vision. You have set up your 12-week mini goals. You've created your sub goals for every week, and then you've tracked yourself over 12 weeks on a percentage, adjusted a little bit. Now what do you do when the 12 weeks are over? Well, I do a big review. I get together with my 2 friends. We spend an entire afternoon, usually in like a nice area, or maybe in a nice coffee shop outside, and we go over the entire past week. Was what I was doing actually aligned with my vision? Did I set too big goals? Did I set too little goals? What was I actually doing during the week that made me accomplish the goals versus not accomplish the goals? Did waking up early help? Did waking up later help? Did working in an office or did working in a coffee shop help? Because what we want to do is say, okay, how can I make the next 12 weeks better? How can I review what happened and improve myself? Okay, so if you stick to this plan, this 12-week plan, aligned with your vision, your weekly goals, for 6 months, your life will change, right? And maybe not on the output sense, right? That's not the point of this video. That's not the point of what I'm talking about. And that's not what changed my life, right? What changed my life was showing myself, if I create this big vision, first of all, I'd never thought about that. I never thought about where I wanted to go. And then I actually create some specific things I can do to help me get towards my vision. I'll actually accomplish a lot. And I actually do a lot of things that make me feel good because they're aligned with what I want to do. And these aren't necessarily huge things, right? I don't know how busy your life is. You might have a really busy life and maybe you can only fit an extra hour a day into doing something or something like that, right? Well, think about it. If you just did one small thing for an hour a day based on your vision or something like that, over a year, that'd be 365 hours spent on that thing. 365 hours spent on a thing is an insane amount of time, right? Just think about that's how small things can add up over time. So if, for example, your goal is to start a new YouTube channel and publish videos and maybe make some money from it, maybe your first step, your first week or 2 weeks of that year is to actually research, okay, how do people actually make YouTube videos week 1? And then how do they actually make money from YouTube videos week 2? If that's interesting to you, I have a completely free 99 YouTube Secrets Black Book, which outline the secrets that the biggest YouTubers in the world use to grow their channel and make money on YouTube. And this will take you through the foundations of making a YouTube channel, content creation, growth hacks, monetization strategies, how to actually scale your channel and your business, marketing and promotion, and the most important thing that I wrote there, the actual mindset for success and growth. And I get emails all the time how this little quick black book has really changed someone's life because it gave them the little steps that they needed to actually take action. Okay, but you clicked this video because you wanted to change your life. You wanted to escape from some place you were in before and go into a new place later, right? It all begins with your vision, taking that time, that hard, difficult time, maybe it's an afternoon, maybe it's a weekend day, to go through and figure out what's your daily vision, what's your weekly vision, and then what's your life vision. And then creating that 12-week plan, that 12-week year, right? And saying, okay, what are these mini goals and how am I gonna take actions? What inputs am I gonna put into the system every single week to get me closer to that vision? And this has changed my life. Every action I do isn't motivated now by some external approval or what other people say I should be doing. It's motivated by me. It's motivating by me saying, okay, can I accomplish this weekly input that I've set for myself? Because it's so important to me to get to this vision, to get to this dream place in my life. It feels real. It feels like who Zach is. It feels like me. But that is it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one. I gotta stretch these. Oh my God. My back is now destroyed.